Florida enjoys an unparalleled diversity of habitat spread over almost 8,500 miles of critical tidal coastline that hosts an impressive number of fish species and boasts an abundance of marine resources. Almost 6 million visitors and residents of all ages fish these waters, making Florida the fishing capital of the world. I'm Mark Sosin, and I've been one of Florida's most enthusiastic fishing fans and supporters for as long as I can remember. One thing I've learned is that each of us becomes a fisheries manager every time we are on the water. Our responsibilities focus on protecting and preserving this vital marine habitat and all the species of fish and marine life that are dependent on it. A single individual can make a difference, because science alone cannot ensure the quality of our fisheries without the help and concern of every angler. Your involvement is crucial to the future of our fisheries. At least 70% of our marine fish species depend on an estuary for part of their life cycle. An estuary is a partly closed area, such as a bay, where fresh water mixes with salty ocean water. Seagrass beds, salt marshes, and mangrove communities offer essential habitat in inshore waters. As anglers, it's our mission to leave this habitat just as we found it, without a single sign that we had been there, and that includes coral, rock, sand, and marl bottoms. Simply taking care not to scar seagrass beds with an outboard propeller makes a major contribution. Once these grass beds have been scarred, it may take many years for them to recover. Proper disposal of monofilament fishing line, as well as lines made from other materials, have been an ongoing problem. Special outdoor bins have been developed and strategically placed at boat ramps and other prime locations with proper signage, so an angler merely has to walk over and drop unwanted line through the opening. If you do not have access to a recycling bin, simply cut your line into 6 to 12-inch segments before discarding it in your garbage. This will prevent harm to any scavengers that encounter it later. Carelessly discarded fishing line in the environment can harm a wide variety of marine life, including fish, manatees, sea turtles, and birds, as well as have a negative impact on human welfare and water quality. Because of regulations on size, slot limits, bag limits, and seasonal restrictions, it's imperative to know your fish, be able to accurately identify what you catch, and stay up to date on the regulations. Every species of fish in Florida waters contributes to the overall well-being of our marine resources. There's no such thing as a trash fish. Every creature in the sea around us enjoys an important role. Forage species are critical to the survival of game fish species. Not every species is tasty enough to put on the table, and some of the fish we catch are too small, but all animals are integral parts of their environment. Just because there's a bag limit does not mean you have to fill it. Take what you need for food, release the rest for tomorrow. Use our resources wisely, without leaving footprints. To ensure a fish's best chance for survival, it should be released correctly and as quickly as possible. If you can land your catch while it is still strong, you increase the odds that it will have a quick recovery. The most effective release method starts by leaving the fish in the water so that the buoyancy of the water supports its internal organs. If possible, use a release tool to remove the hook without touching the fish. When a fish is hooked deeply, simply cut the leader as close to the mouth as possible. Mucus protects a fish's body from infection. If you must touch a fish's body, wet your hands first. Never use towels when handling fish. Recreational saltwater fishing in Florida is big business, producing over $5 billion and over 50,000 jobs for the economy. Anglers take more than 23 million saltwater fishing trips per year. Fishing also boosts tourism because many visitors come here to fish. Florida's economic success is closely tied to the environment and its bounty. Fisheries management based on strong scientific research will help to ensure that fish stocks maintain their abundance for future anglers. Florida's Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission shoulders the task of maintaining saltwater fish stocks and the habitat that supports them. Research and evaluation of fish stocks is essential to establishing regulations. Headquartered in St. Petersburg, the Fish and Wildlife Research Institute has 7 field labs around the state which conduct marine fisheries research, generating vital decision-making data for the Commission based on advanced scientific techniques. Florida has been a leader in developing a program known as Fisheries Independent Monitoring, in which statistically valid samples are taken at random by researchers in 7 key estuarine areas. More than 3 million fish are counted and released alive each year. The second part of the data used to inform the regulatory process comes from fisheries-dependent monitoring, in which recreational fishermen report their catches during interviews with field biologists. Stock enhancement focuses on hatchery-raised fish that are released in the wild. It represents another method used to increase specific fish stocks. As an example, some 6.3 million redfish have been released, 4 million of them in Tampa Bay. Most of these fish had a DNA sample taken so they could be identified in the wild. Other species, such as snook, have been tagged. If you do catch a tagged fish, record the tag number, the fish length, and the location caught, and report it to the FWC. Keeping the fish is not necessary for reporting purposes. If it is not a fish you plan to keep, simply release it with its tag intact and report the information. Anglers contribute to fisheries management many times without even realizing it by purchasing fishing tackle and some boating items that carry a federal excise tax which supports the Sport Fish Restoration Program. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service collects these funds and returns them to the states based on the number of licensed fishermen and the land and water areas. Each state must make a matching contribution of 25%. No matter how much information science generates, and no matter how many decisions the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission makes to ensure that Florida's fisheries remain healthy and viable, and no matter how much we spend on these projects, the responsibility of protecting and conserving these fisheries belongs to you and me. Every day we are on the water, and regardless of the species we may target, we are fisheries managers and must take responsibility for our actions. And if you have specific thoughts and ideas on improving the system, the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission welcomes your input. With the Gulf of Mexico on one side and the Atlantic on the other, Florida has a great diversity of species and habitat, coupled with an abundance of marine resources that make us the fishing capital of the world. Every species is important and valuable if we are to retain this prestigious title. The challenge of keeping our fisheries healthy and strong is shared between the dedicated scientists who work diligently to monitor our fish stocks and recreational anglers who are on-the-scene fisheries managers. Our job as anglers centers on protecting the marine environment and conserving our marine resources. Every time you go fishing, remember that the future of Florida's fisheries is in your hands.